Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the set of irrational numbers, Q dash. Before I start, we need to remember what we had studied before. We've studied before the set of rational numbers. It's any number can be written on the form A over B, where the two terms of the ratio belongs to the integers and the denominators doesn't equal 0. For example, 2 over 3, the fraction 2 over 3 is a rational number because it's on the form a over b and the denominators doesn't equal 0. So in general, we can say any number can be written in the form a over b is a rational number. But today we will take the irrational numbers. To solve the equation x power 2 minus 5 equals 0, we need to move negative 5 to the other side with different signs, so x power 2 equals 5. If we take square root of the two sides, then x is going to be positive or negative root 5. But if we put root 5 in the calculator, the result will be an infinite of decimal numbers. So root 5 can be written on the form a over b, so it doesn't belong to q. So the solution set here is phi. Since we can't put any of them in the form a over b, then we form a new set of numbers which is called the set of irrational numbers. So we can say that the set of irrational numbers q dash is defined as any number can't be written on the form a over b, where a and b belongs to the integers and the denominators the denominator is not equal 0. Example, the square root of not perfect square rational number. The square root of 2 is irrational number because 2 is not a perfect square. But what is the perfect square? The perfect square is a number comes from another number multiplied by itself. We don't have a number multiplied by itself to get 2. So 2 is not a perfect square. So we can say in general, square root of not perfect square is irrational number, like square root of 2 or square root of 3 is irrational number because 3 is not a perfect square. Square root of 5 also irrational number. 5 is not a perfect square. And square root of 6, square root of 7, each one of them is an irrational number because 2 is not a perfect square, 3 is not a perfect square, and 5 and 6 and 7 also not a perfect square. Example, the cube root of not a perfect cube rational number. But what is the perfect cube? The perfect cube is a number comes from another number multiplied by itself 3 times. So cube root of 2 is not a rational number. It's irrational number because 2 is not a perfect cube. We don't have a number multiplied by itself 3 times to get 2. So cube root of 2 is irrational number. Also cube root of 3 is irrational number because 3 is not a perfect cube. And cube root of 4, cube root of 5, cube root of 6, and so on. What about pi? Pi is the ratio between the circumference of the circle and the diameter of the circle. We don't have the exact value of pi. If we put pi in the calculator and press equal, the result will have an infinite of decimal numbers. So we don't have the exact value of pi. So pi can't be written in the form a over b. So it's not a rational number. It's irrational number. Also, we can say pi over 2 or pi plus 2 irrational numbers. Example, determine which of the following numbers is rational and which is irrational. Number 1, square root of 16. We know that 16 is a perfect square. It comes from 4 multiplied by itself. So square root of 16 is 4. And we know that all of integers belongs to the rational numbers. Cube root of 27 over 64. We know that 27 is a perfect cube, comes from 3 multiplied by itself 3 times. So cube root of 27 is 3. And also 64 is a perfect cube, comes from 4 multiplied by itself 3 times. So cube root of 64 is 4. What about 0.025? This decimal can be written in the form a over b. If we press 0.025 in the calculator, the result will be 1 over 40. And this fraction belongs to the rational numbers. From the previous, as we said, the by itself doesn't belong to the rational numbers. It belongs to the irrational numbers. Remarks. If a more than or equals 0, then square root of a power 2 equals square root of a times square root of a equals a. In general, we can say the power 2 can cancel the square root. So here, square root of 3 power 2. The power 2 can cancel the square root, so the result will be 3. Also here, square root of 7 power 2 cancel the square root, the result will be 7. If a belongs to the rational numbers, then cube root of a power 3 equals cube root of a times cube root of a times cube root of a equals a. In general, we can say that the power 3 can cancel the cube root, so here the power 3 cancel the cube root, the result will be 2. Here, cube root of 6 all power 3, the power 3 can cancel the cube root, and the result is going to be 6. If a times b, or the product of ab equals 0, that means the first number can be 0 or the second number can be 0. In general, we can say the product of any two numbers equals 0. That means the first number can be 0 or the second number can be 0. Example. If x belongs to the irrational numbers, find the solution set of the following. If we need to solve the equation 2x power 3 minus 7 equals 3, we need to find the value of x. So we have to move negative 7 to the other side with different sign. So 2x power 3 equals 3 plus 7. And we know that 3 plus 7 equals 10. If we divide each term or the two sides of the equation by 2, the result will be x power 3 equals 5. And then take the cube root of the two sides, then x equals cube root of 5. 5 is not a perfect cube. That means cube root of 5 is not a rational number. It belongs to the irrational numbers. So the solution set is cube root of 5. Have x power 2 minus 5 equal 3. Here we need to move negative 5 to the other side with different signs. So have x power 2 equals 3 plus 5, and 3 plus 5 is 8. And then multiply each side by 2, then x power 2 equals 16. Then take the square root of the two sides, then x equals positive or negative 4. We know that any integer belongs to the rational numbers, so 4, positive or negative 4, doesn't belong to the irrational numbers. So the solution set is 5. From the previous fact, the product of the two numbers equals 0, then, or that means the first number can be 0 or the second number can be 0. So here, the product of the two brackets here equals 0. That means the first bracket can be 0 or the second bracket can be 0. Here we can cancel the power 3 because the other side is 0. Or we can take the cube root of the two sides. So x power 2 minus 10 equals 0. We can move negative 10 to the other side with positive sign, then x power 2 equals 10. We can take the square root of the two sides, and then x equals positive or negative root 10. And 10 is not a perfect square, so square root of 10 belongs to the irrational numbers. And in the other side, we have x power 3 minus 4 equals 0. We move negative 4 to the other side with different sign. So x power 3 equals positive 4. If we take the cube root of the two sides, then x equals cube root of 4. And 4 is not a perfect cube. We don't have a number multiplied by itself. 3 times equals 4. So cube root of 4 is not rational number, but it belongs to the irrational numbers. So the solution set is positive or negative 10 and cube root of 4. And thank you so much.